everybody, it's Will.
And this is Thomas.
And we're back at the virtual spinner rack for another episode of OK Boomer, the podcast. And today we're going to take a look at the very first crossover between Daredevil and the Punisher. Daredevil 257 and Punisher number 10.
Yeah, this has always been one of my favorite stories. It's been a while since I've read it. And like I said, this was kind of inspired by your twin hat last week.
I get the Daredevil side on. I figure we're gonna go from Daredevil to Punisher, and then I'll blind everybody with my bald head and flip it back over to Punisher side.
Oh, well, I could go back. I was going to say that I put the Punisher one up first because that's the one I always read that I always remembered from when I was little.
Okay, so I'll do this.
Oh God, you gonna blind them now? Jesus. Because this is the one I always remember from when I was little, and I read the Daredevil story later, and I read them the other day, and of course, I always read the Punisher part of this story first. I have no idea why, but they are by two completely different creative teams. They tell the same story, but both of them tell it very differently. And the Punisher is kind of this. I mean, let's face it, people. This is back. Reagan had just. This is either the last year Reagan was in office or had just left. This is the tough, dirty, hairy Punisher.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the no nonsense, everything. And this is. I absolutely love Portico's art in here. This is.
It's not a very good copy of Punisher.
No, it's not. But it's the only one I could find.
Yeah, and it's got. I mean, the art's really good. It's just severely off-white pages. That's all.
Yeah, this is sometimes when you hunt down PDFs, you have to deal with what you got, and that's what's a little jarring is when we go to read the Daredevil, it's been remastered or something. It's pristine, white, everything.
Oh yeah.
This is 88, August of 88.
1988,
Yep.
And it starts out with this woman going to the local pharmacy. Before CVS owned everything.
Yep.
In Walgreens and all that kind of crap, and she goes and gets some aspirin, and goes home, takes the aspirin in her bathroom, and drops dead on the floor from cyanide in the aspirin. Yep.
Which we're both boomers, so we remember this. You remember the great Tylenol scare.
Oh yeah.
Some people may not know this, but back years ago when our FDA was kind of like the Wild West, people were actually putting cyanide and crap in Tylenol. And that is exactly what happens here.
That's what brought safety seals into play.
Yep, it's what brought safety seals into play. And I can't remember. I mean, I know it's real life, but I can't remember. It was 10 or 12 people that died from it. It was all over. You couldn't get aspirin anywhere.
Oh yeah, people were because you get crazy people and they do crazy things.
Yeah.
You get an angry ex-girlfriend and she goes to the local corner store, with a hair pick and pokes holes in, every package of condoms before she leaves or something,
Yeah, they do. I mean, all kind of loony stuff. And this is,
and then people would open up, aspirin containers or shoot a syringe of poison or something in it. They did it years late. They did it years before with the candy. Remember the candy scare?
Yep. When they were in Halloween.
Yep.
Razor blades and poison and all that crap in candy and apples and whatever.
Damn sickos ruined my freaking Halloween.
Yep. It was crazy. So it goes. There's our creative team. Mike Barron wrote this one, who you've interviewed multiple times.
Yep, Mike Barron, great guy.
So this is something
Yeah.
you get to talk to him about again next time. Will Portico,
Potatio.
Scott Williams. You go ahead and say the rest of them. My Georgia accent kills it. Except for Carl Potts. I can say Carl Potts.
Okay. You got pot? What?
Carl Potts.
Don't. Oh, okay. Never mind. I was gonna say, don't tell Ryan. Ken Pruzenick, John Wellington, your line,
Carl Potts,
and Tom DeFalco. Looks bad in tights. Ain't that the truth?
Yep. Ain't that the truth? So this is actually the name of the company. So Punisher's sitting there and he's watching the newscast of the poisonings, the medicine tamperings, and it's by a company called Zumatrin. And of course, I love the old Punisher World Journal. He's writing it in on. Some creep's got a mad on for the Zoom Corporation, and I've got a mad on for him. I'm gonna give him some relief.
I don't think that's the kind of it, but
Yeah, exactly. Portatio, if that's how you say it, man, his X-Men run is still one of my favorite runs of all time.
Oh yeah.
So there's Punisher sitting around, and he's going over like the area where all these poisonings have happened, and they're kind of isolated. So he's like, the guy's got to be around here, and he's like, well, the cops don't know a damn thing. So I love how he goes through this massive ass computer. The cops don't know anything, and they have no idea who the hell it is. So I'm going to call somebody who I know will know who it is. So he calls the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah, because that seems like a good idea.
It actually plays out for him. We'll get to that in a minute. So he calls the Jehovah's Witnesses, and then we flash back to, anyone who reads comic books kind of knows this is the guy who's doing it. But he's a big, heavy duty, weightlifter. So he's just lifting weights and grunting and groaning and slamming his weights down, and somebody screams at him, and he runs out of his house with a damn freaking hunting knife. He's going to kill him. Hold on just a sec, sir. I'm going to let you take this for just a sec, okay?
Yep, I got it. All right, so this guy worked for that company and got fired because they upgraded all the computer systems, and none of the guys that have been there for 20, 30 years knew what the hell they were doing, and some of them just couldn't get a grasp of it. He was one of them, so they fired a ton of people. Kind of like when AT&T took over DC, and they just did a couple of bloody Mondays, and so he's been trying to put them out of business by poisoning all kinds of things: aspirin, toothpaste, mouthwash, everything. And he goes downstairs, and he's lifting weights, so he's wearing a couple of pads, his weightlifting gloves, and a banana hammock, and he goes downstairs with a Rambo knife, banging on his neighbor's door.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, gonna threaten him, and then he goes running back upstairs, and apparently there's this woman that lives in the building that has got the hots for him.
Yeah, this is Cindy. He took her out for a date one time. Yeah, he takes her out for a date, and he's like, just because I took you out for a date doesn't mean you could butt in on me. And she thinks it's her breath.
Yeah, I'm like, why don't you try the mouthwash? Because That'll kill you. That'll kill you
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. So then we flash back to the Punisher,
Mm-hmm.
and he's actually dressed up as an FBI agent and has went down to the actual Jehovah's Witnesses, and he gets down there, and when he gets down there, they're talking.
You know what's really funny?
What?
The second panel on top.
This one?
Yeah, damned if that's not Clark Kent.
Okay. Yeah, Clark Kent. It definitely looks like Clark Kent.
The comic shop did that one year because they used to take like all the small like Kenner's like superpowers and Marvel's Secret Wars action figures, like the 4-inch ones there.
Yeah.
And they used to put them like all over the Christmas tree in the window. So it was the comic book Christmas tree. And Punisher was like wicked popular back then. And so they stripped down a Superman figure and he repainted him as Punisher.
A Superman figure.
Yep.
Really?
So he kind of like sanded down the little curly Q on the front of his forehead.
Yeah.
And did like a little putty job and then painted him up. Did a good job. Took him like a couple of weeks, but he painted them all up like the Punisher.
Yeah, they painted him up just like the Punisher back when the Punisher was super popular.
Yep. So, like Thomas was saying, he gives him, his fake federal credentials, and he, passes stuff off, and he's basically scamming the Jehovah's Witnesses, which is going to help him in the long run to, nail some people.
Yeah. Sorry about this, sir. Work had just
specifically the guy.
What are you talking?
Specifically because the guy that is poisoning everybody in New York City.
Yeah, and he's talking to the Jehovah's Witness because he thinks they've bound to have encountered him, and he's like, who's, and the guy's like, yeah, we have. So he gives him a link of people to head down, and he goes back. But then it plays over, and finally we get to see Hornhead here, which when we get to the next issue, to the Daredevil issue, we'll actually be able to see this. And because this actual scene happens in the Daredevil book. But,
in real time opposed to
real
TV.
time.
Yeah, instead of like this, 4-second delay on the TV screen on the comic book.
Yeah, and then that's the whole thing. Punisher's sitting there watching the news, and Daredevil comes on there, and he's like, hey, I'm speaking to the person who's poisoning the Zoom Corporation medicine. Turn yourself in, whatever grievance you have with the corporation, we can, try and take care of that, and I promise you'll have a fair hearing and everything else.
And, of course, he doesn't believe it, and he's like doing chin-ups. Punisher is just waiting for something to happen, so, he's all suited up, laying down in his bed, and, he's got a Glock in his hand ready to go. Yeah,
he's just sitting there, he's waiting for, this is his only time. He's just waiting for somebody to give him a better message. And I guess he finally goes to sleep. And then later on, the phone wakes him up. And it's Mr. Abenall from the Jehovah's Witness. And he's like, he says he's got something, and he invites him to come down.
Yeah, you can tell how 80s it is. It's an alarm clock radio telephone.
Dude, I didn't even notice that. Yes, it is. Oh crap! I've still got an old '80s alarm clock. The wood ones that have the big ass 9-volt battery in them.
Oh yeah, the fake wood grain ones.
Yep. And I've had it for like 30 years. But, it's from the 80s, so people don't understand. Back then, products were made to last. And it still works. It gets me up every day. So I've never got another one. I just got this big ass old alarm clock that's loud as 400 hells.
Does it have like the little tiles inside that the numbers go clink and flip down?
It's not that one. It's still digital, but it's got the little, it's the little dots. So you can see as it changes, it goes click, click, it goes
Oh
off.
yeah. Oh, that's too funny. My mother bought me like 19 different alarm clocks. Nothing would wake me up. Even the metal clangy bell ones.
Yeah.
It'd be like right by my head, and I would just, turn and face the other direction, and face down on the pillow, and just go right back to sleep.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the whole thing. It's just funny that he's got that, and I didn't even notice it was a phone alarm clock. But so he gets the message from the Jehovah's Witnesses, and he goes down there and talks to them, and the guy tells him, he says, yeah, they went by and saw this guy twice, and the second time he like brandishes a gun and a knife at him, and he's like screaming, and they seem like he's high, and the Punisher actually says, why'd you go see him a second time? And it was an oversight. We usually don't see people who are buttholes, a second time, but they did. So he's like, well, this has got to be a good lead. So he heads out to the address that's given to him, and now he's dressed as a plumber, and he's got his equipment and everything, and he's on his way up, and good old the nosy neighbor downstairs is like, oh look, what are you doing in the building? The landlord sucks. And it's like, the landlord sucks. And they go up the window, and she begs him to go in and fix her damn pipes. She's like, they've been leaking for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So the Punisher goes in to fix her pipes because he's originally there for the neighbor, the creep.
Yeah, the creep across the hall.
Abner, I think was his name.
But, the guy that she thinks she's in a relationship with.
Yeah, who really doesn't give a crap. So she's having the Punisher fix this, and he gets up after he's done, and she went to the store and bought the mouthwash because remember she thought it was her breath. So she's going to pop some mouthwash and gargle it to fix it, and when she goes to do it, the Punisher sniffs it and smells the cyanide. I can't remember what cyanide smells like. Do you?
Look,
it has an odor.
Yeah, if you know what cyanide smells like, it usually means because you actually tried to use it on somebody once.
No, I mean they tell you it's got a smell. I can't remember what it smells like, but I like cinnamon or something like that, I think. We'd have to look at it. So
I'm not sure.
The Punisher smells it. He's like, oh, it's cyanide, and he smacks it out of her hands, and he finally hears Alfred. Alfred's his name. So she's like, Alfred's home, and then the Punisher like opens up the toolkit, the toolbox he's got, and decides it's time to go to work. And of course, this is the 80s, so he obviously has an Uzi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and why wouldn't you?
No, I mean it's the 80s. Every 80s movie has 27 Uzis in it, and he begins to get out of his plumbing's uniform, and of course he's wearing his regular Punisher uniform underneath it. That's a good ass picture, by the way.
Yeah, he's like bump.
Yeah,
he's stripping down for her, and once he goes to attack her, she gets mad after all the shit he just saved her life.
Yep.
Fixed her pipes.
Everything. Hey, you don't need that gun. And then when he goes out there, that's when she attacks him because Alfred pulls out he's got a revolver, and Punisher disarms him, old chick attacks him from the back, and then they get the big fight.
Yeah, she tries to scrape out his eyes, and you know, she caught like a nice back fist to the face for her troubles.
Yeah, or he elbows her. Yeah, he elbows her in the face. It looks like
it's like boom.
Of course, everybody else. I guess this is New York. Maybe this is a northern thing. Everybody else had opened their doors to see what the hell was going on,
and then they slammed them shut when they saw Punisher.
Everybody slams all the doors. So he makes a break for it. The creep does, and he jumps out the damn window and lands on the roof. And Punisher's right behind him, and he's he beats the living hell out of him. This is the little scene that always got me, because he picks him up. Punisher's choking the living shit out of him, and he picks him up, and the guy's like, "Hey, I've got rights, and he says, "Yeah, you got rights." Mr. Coppersmith's his last name. He says, "You got the right to go splat when you hit the pavement." You got.
I love that line.
Yeah, you got the right to bleed into the gutter.
Man, I wish I wasn't crippled so I could do that to somebody, just so I could use that line.
Oh, you got the right to go splat when you hit the pavement.
Mm-hmm.
And then Punisher hears somebody screams at him, "Hold up!" And of course it's Daredevil, and he's like, "Put him down." And him and Punisher start to get into talk. And he's like, "This one's mine." And Daredevil takes the billy club and just just knocks the Punisher out. He numbs his arm and everything. But then he's like, Daredevil tells him, "We should have had this discussion years ago," which shows that nobody's done anything about the damn Punisher. Nobody's tried except for Spider-Man. And I think one time before Daredevil Punisher shows up in one of the Daredevil comics in the Frank Miller, but no one's done anything about him. It's the same thing from, I can't remember how many years ago now, when Spider-Man's like, he's a freaking murderer, people. He kills people left and right.
Yeah, but only the bad ones.
Yeah, we still love him for it.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm telling you.
It's like, can we team up the Punisher with Dexter? Because that would be pretty awesome.
The Punisher Dexter crossover you never thought of. He'll take out the street crime, and then he brings them back to Dexter to get rid of the bodies or something.
Yep.
Damn it. The fight scene is good here, except for, what the hell is Punisher thinking when he's rolling into Daredevil? But so while they're fighting, they start having this big talk about running criminals through the justice the justice system. They're just maggots. They'll be right out. They'll do the damn crime again. I take care of them. And Daredevil just beats the hell out of the Punisher. He beats him damn like a yard dog. And at the end, he's like, "I'm glad we finally had this discussion. I'm sick of your kind of justice." And, of course, the Punisher gives him that same thing, man. And it's the same line people have been saying for a long time. How many people have been killed by maggots that get in and out of the justice system that you set free? You could have stopped Bullseye. And Daredevil tells him, that's the part we pay for living in a free society. And damn Coppersmith, manages to get his gun, or Coopersmith manages to get his gun, and he's going to freaking pull it on Daredevil and the Punisher. Dude, these two guys just beat the hell out of each other over you. And, if Daredevil hadn't saved your ass, you'd be street pizza. And then he pulls a gun on Daredevil, which doesn't go good either. So he knocks the gun out of his hand and,
knocks him out.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently he can bench press like close to 1,000 pounds, but he's got a glass jaw.
Hey, it happens.
Because little Matt Murdock with one shot.
Well, he's a little bit more than a little, but yeah. I do like the fact that he picks
in comparison.
Yeah. He says, if I didn't have to take Coopersmith in, you and I would have a more conclusive discussion of this problem. And he's like, straighten your ass up or we'll meet again. And he swings off.
And Punisher's just thinking to himself, yeah, sure, until I reach for the holster on my ankle and shoot you.
Yeah. But so Frank manages to climb back up into the damn apartment, and there's
Biz Nosy again.
Yeah. And he's like, what did he do? What did he do? He's like, he's the person that's been putting cyanide in headache medicine and mouthwash. And she's like, no, he couldn't have. And she's, she starts crying. And he's, you're just a creep. I don't believe it. You're not a federal agent. You're just some creep in a costume. And she's like, I'm calling the police. And the last thing is, like Punisher's in his little war journal, he says, it's a good thing I don't do it for people like her. When you get right down to it, most people are just creeps. And he leaves.
Mm-hmm.
And
well,
then
Frank, you are like in New York City, so what do you expect?
That's half the city. So he leaves, and then there at the bottom is what takes us to 257. It's the See Daredevil 257 on sale now for another side of the story.
See, this is because when there's a crossover, I have a hell of a knack for reading the wrong issue first.
Well, it may have been just because of the when I put this in the file and sent it over to sometimes alphabetically like that. But I read the Daredevil, and I actually went a little farther into this run than.
Whoops! Hold on.
Oh!
I gotta flip the hat.
Gotta flip the hat.
Okay, now we're on the Daredevil issue.
Yep, Daredevil 257 versus the Punisher. This is back when this is not full 80s JR art, but this is not today's JR art. It's kind of like somewhere in between. This is his transition phase.
Did you just call John Romita Jr. a tranny?
No.
Oh, must have been me.
Damn it. No.
I didn't really call him that. He was transitioning from real artwork to 100% chicken scratch.
The stuff we see in Action Comics now.
Oh, God, it's so bad.
Yeah. This is actually fits good because he's JR did a bunch of Punisher stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And then he had a huge run on Daredevil. And like I said, what's terrible is sometimes when I read these issues, I'll read a couple more after that. So I actually read like 4 issues after this in Daredevil.
Yeah, he had a big run on. Junior had a huge run on Spectacular Spider-Man. The original Spectacular Spider-Man.
Yes.
During the Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man.
Yeah, when it was PPSM.
Yeah.
That's a great series. We need to do some from it one day.
And Web of, I remember I loved Web of Spider-Man for a while, and then I started hating the artwork, but could still get into the stories because, well, it's Spider-Man.
Yeah. Well, you had Webb, and then there was Sal. Sal did Webb. Sal did Peter Parker. But the thing that gets me about we're talking about these great runs is, I know we give JR, John Romita Jr. a lot of grief sometimes for his modern art style. But if you go back with Marvel, he had huge runs on pretty much every character you can think of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he started with Spider-Man. That's the first one I can think of. And then he had a huge run on Iron Man, Punisher, Daredevil. He did a Hulk run.
Avengers.
He did some Avengers. I don't think he did Thor.
No, he did. I think he did.
I'd have to go back and look. I can't remember him on Thor.
I think it's later issues though.
Okay, so later issues.
Yeah.
But so he's been there. He's got his chops. But like I said, today
Yeah.
he's just, you know, he's
Well,
not as
today he's just like, you know what? This is as much money as Marvel's ever going to pay me. I'm at the top of I'm at the top of the food chain. I haven't gotten a raise in 20 years. Fuck it. Chicken scratch.
damn it. All right, so this issue opens up, and right off the bat, um, if you can't tell, it's a little wordier than the Mike Barron story.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mike just wants to get right to the point.
And not only is it a little wordier, um, it's a much more serious story.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this is serious, and we'll get to the creators in just a sec. Besides Jr., so Punisher opens up and he's like, you know, he's going to this crack house, and he's like, there they are, you know, they're shooting, you know, sprinkling, you know, and then while he's going to the crack house, he's thinking about the news and some guy sprinkling aspirin with cyanide. It's like shooting a bullet in the crowd. You know, it'll kill anybody. You know, it's just randomness. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and he opens the door and literally just lays waste to the freaking people in the crack house. And this is
the bully.
The bully, yeah, and Nascenti, and John Romita Jr. I didn't realize that Williamson was the anchor for this.
Yeah, Al
until
Williamson, Joe Rosen,
Yeah.
Max Schultz, Ralph
Yeah.
Macchio. Wow, the Karate. Oh no, that's not the Karate.
Different Ralph Macchio and Tom DeFalco.
That still doesn't look good in tights.
It doesn't say that here. But Williamson, though, that's kind of like shocked me because he's so particular with everything. But
he must have spent hours trying to fix Junior's work on all this stuff.
Well, I mean, that's just the thing. Williamson is so precise and, you know, just in detail. I mean, he's an insanely talented, you know, penciler and anchor.
Mm-hmm.
Just putting him on this style is kind of crazy. It's not like Frank Miller and Klaus Janson, which, you know, make perfect sense. You know, Klaus Janson draws like Frank Miller, and Frank Miller draws like Klaus Janson. They're a perfect match.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's
yep, they both look like crap.
Jack Kirby and Joe Sinnott. I mean, it just makes no sense. These are two different artists.
Mm-hmm.
So Punisher just lays waste to all of these freaking drug dealers and just starts walking through and looking and see what it is. You know, they're nothing but dog meat. You know, they don't deserve anything. And then meanwhile, he's just, you know, I'll find that damn aspirin killer next. And he's like, I've got a lead. And he's got one on Alfred. He already knows who it is now. Which we didn't see any of this in the last issue.
Yeah, this is all. What's weird is we didn't get a heavier Punisher story in the Punisher issue.
Yeah, I mean it's there, but it's just all art and as to what's going on. And this is, you know,
it's like all edited down. He goes, yeah. He gets a lead. He goes after the guy. Daredevil interrupts him. He gets a great one-liner, and then end of story.
Yeah. But so 3 pages in, and here we are. It's like later elsewhere, and we ask, and here's that line we were talking about. You would see in person. So Daredevil's taking these freaking, you know, drug dealers and stuff into the courthouse, and the news is asking him, you know, what about the guy doing the, you know, that's putting all the, you know, the cyanide in the aspirin. He's like, he's a murderer. He needs help. And then there's the, turn yourself in. You know, we'll make sure you get a, you know, a good time, you know, a good trial, a fair hearing, all that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they show on the TV. And Daredevil speaks to the police, who says, you know, hey, come on down. and we'll show you all the evidence I got. And then this is where we get our description of Daredevil's powers again, which I think, dude, they throw this in constantly in the old Daredevil books to remind little kids that pick it up why Daredevil, when he goes to see something like this, is such a freaking big deal. Because he can smell all the stuff. Everything.
Now, it got put away someplace different, but I actually have a Typhoid Mary action figure.
Really?
Yeah.
Sweet.
It's not very good, and it's got like her. It's funny, we're gonna take her when they arrest her at, like, you know, way at the end of the year this book came out.
Yeah.
And they're gonna take her to the raft, and they've got like her feet clamped into like these floor braces and stuff. But
well,
I still got it.
It's kind of funny. We're reading this now, and I picked this book randomly. I got my shipment of comics in the other day, and I actually read Daredevil 25 and 26 this morning.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've read them.
No, I haven't read Daredevil in years.
Okay, well, Daredevil 25 and 26, is 26 is part of the, Elektra's running around as Daredevil now.
Yeah, yeah.
And 26 is part of the whole King in Black storyline. And the Kingpin, who you see Mary, Typhoid Mary, just as Mary at this point, goes to see the Kingpin, and he touches her, and he's talking to her, and she freaks out and runs away. But Typhoid Mary's basically working for the Kingpin in this book, and she's working for the Kingpin again in the new issue of Daredevil.
Oh, she's back.
Yes, and like one of the symbiotes like infects her, and she attacks Elektra at the end of the book. It's pretty freaky.
Lovely.
Yeah. So, but Mary goes to see Kingpin, and he's like, he touches her and everything, and she's like, I don't like to be touched. And Typhoid likes to be touched. And she said, no one touches me but Matt Murdock. And she gets
I
mad.
almost spit my coffee all over my keyboard.
Why?
Typhoid likes to be touched.
Exactly. So here goes Daredevil goes to the Zoom Corporation and in Queens, and he goes in there to talk to everybody. So he finds the guy who's the longest serving employee there. And he's talking to him. He's like, the guy's like, why do you want to talk to me? And he's like, because you've been here longer than everybody. You know what's going on. And I love how the guy that's been here forever is like, I wish somebody else would tell the bosses that. Yeah. But
where's my raise from 1973?
Yeah, give me I've been making the same for 27 damn years. Give me something. So Daredevil's like, hey, he smelled on the evidence like weightlifting oil. So he's like, hey, was there any weightlifters that, were upset about it? And he's like, yeah, it's Alf. He's got a real big hate for the Zoom Corporation. And this is what you were talking about earlier. He's like, yeah, this guy was one of the best workers that the company had, but he was slow. And they brought in all these computers for the automation systems, and he couldn't work it fast enough. He could not learn his job fast enough. So the company let him go.
Yep.
Which that is a very familiar story. That's what I'm saying. This gives us a completely different outlook on Alfred. And so Daredevil's like, hey, can I sit where he's at? And he goes and he sits, and he's still smelling and looking for stuff and at the technology and everything. And the guy tells him, he's like, hey, he would have learned it, if he would just given him time, but they didn't. And then when he gets there to where Alf's at, there's a young punk, is what he says, just out of school, some computer whiz. And this guy's the one that took his job. And he was half of the other guy's age. So he tells him to take a seat. And
my kid took my job because she knew how to operate an iPhone and I didn't.
But yeah, basically, that's exactly what it is. You could operate a computer and I couldn't. So you lost my job. They fired me. And so while Daredevil's sitting there looking at the area. We flash back to Queens, and here's Alfred, who's having nightmares, and he hates everybody, and he worked there for so long, gave them everything he could, but they all hate him. You know, they didn't do anything. They just fired him. And of course, we go back to the story flashes back to here's Typhoid Mary, who are married now, drawing. Yep, that is kind of an ugly picture of her right there, though. And her brain is flipping on and off. You know, the little white bubbles are her, and then the other ones are Typhoid. She's kiss him and everything. She's freaking out. And then she has the whole paint and freaking out thing here. And she destroys her damn apartment and then heads back to see what.
But paints her name on the wall. Yeah,
paints her name on the wall, cuts all the damn furniture up. And then we flash back to, elsewhere, the Punisher has caught up with Alfred Coopersmith. See Punisher 10 for that side of the story. And here's your quote again. I got rights. Goes splat on the pavement.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it amazing that back in the day that they could pull this off?
Oh, imagine if they did a Punisher book, nowadays, and he was just, instead of shooting a guy, because he could recover from a bullet wound, he's going to throw him off like a 10-story building.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got the right to go splat on the pavement, punk.
Yeah, that's it.
Ooh!
Yeah,
it's like, relax, lady. It's just a comic book.
Pissed off.
It's not real life.
But so there it is, and Daredevil shows up just like before, and we're pretty much right where we are. Only this time we get to see the fight when we read the book. Mm-hmm. We get to see the fight as Alfred is watching it. Because he talks about as Punisher drops him when Daredevil hits him, he's like he lands on his head, but he can still see it, and he's watching them. He can't really hear what they're saying. A little bit every now and then he hears about how Daredevil's trying to save him, and he thinks he could help him, and talking about freedom, and Punisher's talking about killing him, and they just lay into each other. What's funny is in both books, I think Punisher still gets it pretty bad.
Yeah.
In this one, though, he does seem to put up a better fight than in his own book, because in his own book, he gets the hell beat out of him. At least here, he pulls a freaking knife, and Daredevil manages to get out of the way, all while Alfred's watching it. Finally, full Nelson, Punisher flips him over, and big double page spreads, but eventually Daredevil lays him out. And same thing happens. Alfred pulls his gun. It's not a revolver now; it's an automatic. It looks like. And
yeah, it wasn't the revolver gun that they had in the other issue.
No, it's a different gun.
Yeah, it's Frank's. That's Frank's Glock.
Oh, okay. So Frank, he picks up Frank's Glock, and in the last issue he had his revolver.
Yeah.
And Daredevil lays his ass out. I do love how it just shows first person view. I don't remember nothing after that.
Yeah. He didn't even see him move.
No.
Like one shot is him just standing there looking at him, and the other shot, one arm is like completely crossed over the body, and his baton has just like ricocheted off the gun and hit him right between the eyes.
Yeah, because in the last issue he takes the gun out and then punches him out. This one he just cold cocks his ass.
Mm-hmm.
And we get here, so we go back to the Kingpin, who is teaching Typhoid Mary how to shoot. And he's paying her $1 million to kill Daredevil and break his heart. And she's like, not a problem. And of course, he lays a little smooch down on her, and she drops all her stuff. And then it goes back to the church later on, where Matt Murdock meets up with Mary, not Typhoid Mary, Mary, and he's kissing her, and she's asking him, like, when are you going to tell your other girlfriend? Who I didn't. He says Karen.
Karen Page.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if it was Karen Page or another Karen, because Karen Page, she went and did some crazy crap in Born Again.
Yeah, she went all druggy drug.
Yeah, druggy drug, and she was in pornos and all this other stuff.
Hey, as soon as I found out Daredevil's girlfriend was a porn star, that made me want to read the book when I was a kid.
Is that what it was? But I was like, holy crap, is this Karen Page or someone else? And she's, trust me, I love you, and just kiss me and tell me everything's going to be okay. And he's going to tell Karen, but he hasn't brought himself to take her yet. So later on, at the they say cop shop, so back at police headquarters, Matt Murdock shows up to see Mr. Alfred, and he shows him up. And the thing that I got me here is he's gonna, he talks about the guy Daredevil promised to get me some representation. I'm here to help you. He says Punisher said that I'd be out of jail within a month, and he's going to be waiting for me with a gun, and he'll kill me. And so Matt Murdock gives him his whole thing, and asks him what's going on. And Alfred tells him, hey, I'm just pissed off because they fired me. It's all I could ever do. And he tells him, hey, society it's got to take care of the people it crushes. If you behave in prison, maybe you can get paroled in 10 years. You can still have a life. You can lift weights. You can do whatever. And Alfred's like, hey, if they got a school in there, maybe I could learn about computers. And Daredevil says, yeah, but they do. So he agrees to let Matt Murdock actually defend him at the end of the book. Mm-hmm. Which to me, like I said, I always remember 10, and I didn't remember how good this issue was until I read it the other day. The fact that he's just not a one-dimensional character. There is a reason why he's so upset. In the other book, he's just a madman. He's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Just wants to hurt everybody.
Yeah, so it's a little different take. Depends on on who's writing and everything.
Yeah, I'll have to find it, and I'll send it to you one day. But there's a third book, which is from Daredevil again too. Like I said, I think we talked about it last week, which is from maybe like 10 years ago or something. But I think it tells the story from the police officer's point of view, and goes back and forth between Punisher and Daredevil and the police officer. But it's like a third telling of this story, only it's different as well.
Cool.
Yeah, I can't think of many stories that did this. So what do you think of these two?
I liked them. I went through them pretty quick.
Did you? On your new tablet?
On the new tablet that I still need a screen protector and case for.
Oh, God. All right. Well, I am having an issue finding us a PDF of the Judge Dredd book for this month. Hopefully I'll find one. If not, do you want to go ahead and move up Kingdom Come for later this month?
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah. All right.
So next week, how about we do the first appearance of Grendel?
First appearance of Grendel. Okay, that is in Dark Horse, isn't it?
Comico.
Comico. I have
Not,
to look that one up.
not Kamiko, but Comico.
Yeah, I remember Comico. That was one of these small independent '80s publishers. Yeah. Comico, is it Innovation First,
Mm-hmm. Now
Pacific
Comics,
Comics, Now Comics. God, who else?
Malibu.
Yeah, Malibu. That's all the big ones. Because you
Yeah.
can't say Aardvark didn't count. It only published one book.
Mm-hmm. The same thing with New England Comics.
With New England, yeah, New England only published one book. Well, they published more than that, but all the books are tied together to that one character.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'll get that up and I'll send it over to you, and we will do the first appearance of Grendel. That's by Matt Wagner, right?
Matt Wagner.
Yep.
It's Hunter Rose.
So I will dig that up, and we will do the first appearance of Grendel next week.
Oh, BKB.
All right.
So until next week, we'll meet you back here at the virtual spinner rack for the very first appearance of Grendel in comic books. And until then, peace, love, and read some comics.